And we are live. A little bit after 9. Good morning, everyone. I am Jill Coletti, if you don't know me yet. And I am on here just sharing little pieces of my life that have helped me to kind of jump out of the stuckness of Groundhog Day and start living a life I love. And I'm joined today by the most amazing Stacy Nestor, who is probably one of the most intuitive people I've ever met in my entire life. And we're going to talk about one of the biggest things that has actually helped me in the past however many years since I've heard about it is Reiki. And Reiki literally has been completely life-changing for me. And I am bringing Stacy on so that you're not just hearing the life-changingness of my life, but also other people. So I'm going to start sharing a little bit more, just other people's experiences with Reiki. So Stacy, and I shared in the comments or description of this video a link so you can find Stacy as well. But Stacy, I don't know if you would like, I mean, you're one of the most intuitive people I know, right? So you might even know already what I'm going to say. No. You want to share like a little bit about you, and then maybe after you share a little bit about you, just what kind of led you down the Reiki pathway?
Sure. So obviously you've introduced me. My name is Stacy. I'm actually a psychic medium. And I guess one of the little tidbits that I'll share about myself is I just went through a year-long training to be tested with my psychic and mediumship abilities and pushed kind of to the brink to make sure that I'm not full of baloney. So that I think is kind of important. So I'm actually a certified psychic medium. Reiki was introduced to me before I really knew what it was, I'm going to say. I've always been a healer. One of my practices, even whenever I'm reading intuitively for individuals that are sitting in front of me or with me, is I'm a cleaner. Like it's a kind of a bizarre thing to say, but my energy naturally cleans other people's energy. So Reiki for me has always been kind of a second, it's like writing, second, it's just easy. It's just something that I always stepped into. When I started my Reiki journey, though, it was because I wanted to put words to what I was doing. That balance, that finding blocks, the clearing of energy, the movement of it. Reiki helped me step into this ability to put words and understanding towards what I was doing. So I did Reiki 1 elsewhere, and then I stopped for a number of years. I think it was close to 2 years after, because I was just not in a space in my life where I could practice Reiki, actively daily. And then I met you, Jill, and you and I walked through the entire process. And I'm actually a Reiki master teacher now as well. And what Reiki has done in my life is helped me step into the understanding of it's all practice. It's really all practice. Even intuitively, it's all just practice. And we don't have to be perfect all the time. We can just step into, doing Reiki, doing the healing work, and, not necessarily be perfect humans, but it's about improvement, improving slowly.
Yes. And I think that's one of the biggest things. And I mean, you kind of touch upon it just in the way that you were speaking of it, for me being a very much a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the healing modality piece, right? Obviously, like you talked about, clearing and things, and you were naturally doing it, right? And now you have a little bit of, I guess it's not necessarily super structured, but maybe a little bit of structure there, or something like you said.
There is nothing structured about me, but
There's nothing really structured. I know, right? There's nothing really structured about me. I need more structure in my life. I went from like super ridiculous structure in the corporate world, and then I got introduced to Reiki and started,
well,
changing. And I'm not structured now.
So I think it's an interesting balance though. So it is structured and it's not. Even when I step into a reading, like I said, I'm always clearing and I'm always cleaning other energy just because it's innate in me. Um when I am doing things though, I'm going with a flow. So I step into a flow and there's always a beginning, middle, and end when I'm doing Reiki or a reading or things like that. And I start a certain way. Usually before I step into a Reiki session, it's 10 to 15 minutes of meditation, and I am clearing my space to make sure that I can clear another person's energy field. And I have meditation cards that I step into that I always read at the start of every session that I do because it always ties in. It's always related to what the other person sitting in front of me needs, and I never know what that looks like until I'm sitting in front of them actually looking at it. It's just like most readers who use cards like I do typically will not prepare ahead of time and they won't pull or they'll ask for a number or things along those lines. I always have the cards that I need for a reading prepared before I sit down with the person. And I don't look at them ahead of time, but I always know that the cards that I've pulled are the cards that that person needs. Reiki is kind of the same way for me is I have my tools and I don't always use the same ones.
Yeah.
I step into it and I go with the flow of, what the universe is kind of like, this is where you're at today. This is what this person needs.
I love that. Like from a healing perspective, right? Reiki is one of the tools in the toolbox, but your experience, with other people and the way that you practice, right, is very multidimensional. I mean, you have all sorts of things, all sorts of tools in the toolbox that you wear that belt around and you're like, okay, I'm going to whip this out, whip that out, and Reiki can be a piece of it if
Absolutely.
you desire, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So if you were to explain what Reiki is to someone who may not know, how would you explain it?
Energy healing, easy. So one, it's interesting. I have a lot of family that doesn't understand necessarily what Reiki does, or some of the tools that I use are. And the way I simply explain it is it's energy healing. It just makes you feel better. At the end of the day, if you step into a Reiki session with somebody and you walk away and you don't feel any different, you still have that hour, half hour of relaxation in a busy grinding schedule that we all face on a daily basis. So not only is it actually healing your body from the inside out, it gives you that period of a time to just be you and not have a phone and not have everybody trying to contact you and not have the constant go 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 that we all step into on a daily basis. So I call it energy healing and I also call it safe space. It's for you. And I do the majority of my Reiki sessions online on through Zoom. And I tell people, like, I don't care where you are, lay in your bed, be as comfortable as you can be, because this is your time. And, when we step into meditation and when I actually start doing Reiki, usually I'd say 9 times out of 10, they experience things that they don't understand while I'm doing Reiki on them. I remember one person was like, it felt like you were literally touching my shoulders. And I'm like, that's the connection. It's a beautiful thing. But that's energy. That's energy healing. That is energy healing at its like core meaning. When you step into the belief that it's going to work, hey, guess what? Miracles happen. When you step into a Reiki session and you don't believe it's going to work, you're going to get an hour long of relaxation, and you're going to move on with your life.
Right. And I love that you mentioned that because energy, Reiki stands for, right, universal life force energy, right? There's when you think energy, energy has no time, no space. Energy is everywhere and everything, right? Hence the availability to be able to do that from a distance, right? And similar to you, I mean, I always tell people that energy work is happening whether you're in the same room with me or, thousands of miles away, right? That connection is there. The big difference is sometimes some people like to just get out of their space so that they can relax more. So it has nothing to do with the actual energy exchange in the healing part. It is the relaxation part, right? And the ability for them to actually like feel and see things so that they don't have all the distractions.
Yeah, and just stepping
Yeah.
away for, like I said, hour period of time. It's a gift that we give ourselves that we forget about. I know that in your group you target a lot of, busy working moms who moms do so much for everybody in their lives. And I honestly, I also point the finger to, like, I'm not, oh, I'm a dog mom, but I don't have any human children. Um, I never stop. I never stop. And then by the time I realize that I need healing myself, I'm usually like in bed with the flu because I pushed so hard through all of
Yeah.
those warning signs. Like and I'm not saying that men don't do it, but most women tend to put their needs
Yeah.
to the very last. So whenever you step into like the knowledge of Reiki and having the ability to do Reiki, you give yourself a healing or an opportunity for your body to heal before it's too late, before you're in bed with the flu for days.
Yes. I love that. And I mean, I used to get sick all the time, pre-Reiki
Yeah.
in my life, right? I was sick constantly. There was the stress of just, the job that I was leading, all that. But Reiki, like you are talking here, has become like a lifestyle. I can't say I'm perfect at it. I don't do it every day. Stacy calls me out when I'm not being good. Like, she's good about that, right?
Well, that's usually when you're like, hey, do you have any time? And I'm
How
like,
many
you're not
times?
taking care of yourself.
Right. So usually it like builds up because I'm not doing it
Yeah.
for myself, right? But there's, I guess, a couple of cool things, right? Is there's the ability to, when you are like a Reiki master, or even a Reiki one, right? There's the ability for you to do Reiki on yourself, right? Which is amazing.
Mhm.
And then as you move up, obviously you're practicing on other people, right? But again, it's like that lifestyle piece. I think one big thing is that people can actually connect with energy now. Like you were saying, before you actually were led in the direction of doing Reiki, right? The actual practice and becoming attuned to the energy, you actually kind of already did a lot of that, right? You were already really connected with energy. And this helped, like we talked about, with a little bit of like structure and just putting words to it and symbols. We learned some symbols and things like that to it. But everyone can connect with their own energy through meditation or whichever way. And everyone obviously can go to a practitioner and receive that self-care, and receive that healing, which, whether you're a Reiki master teacher or not, everyone should have their own healer, right?
Yes.
What would you say, I guess, two things. So you already talked a little bit about what, doing the one-on-one and having a session and kind of what it will do to help them relax and things. Who do you think, I guess, trying to think, who would you recommend going down the avenue or the route of actually becoming attuned or certified, or whatever word you want to say, to the Reiki energy itself?
So I'm gonna first agree with the fact that everybody can tap in and step into that energy and use that healing modality. I think that those that step into the energy are ready for it.
Mhm.
It's interesting because I've done a few Reiki 1 certifications, and the people that I have found that walk towards me to be Reiki certified are typically ready to be Reiki certified, and they're
Yeah.
not pushed into it.
Yes.
I have met individuals who, went through the Reiki 1, certification process and opening up of that energy, and it was just too much for their system to handle. And it's very similar to intuitive abilities opening up. Is I've been a tarot reader. I've read cards since I was about 13. I read very differently. I'm not a traditional reader by any means. But with that said, I knew what I was stepping into when I stepped into Reiki, because
Mhm.
I was already open to a lot of that energy, because it can be very overwhelming for for the system of the person that's stepping into the healing modality, because there is a 21-day cleanse, which is an energetic rebalance of your system repeatedly over a 3-week period of time. and I always I spend a lot of time talking about that because I like individuals to understand what they're walking into, because it can be a very different experience each for everybody. I know, I still laugh because when I was Reiki 3 attuned, I stopped eating meat for months.
I
And even
remember
the
that.
thought of it, yeah, even the thought of it would just make me nauseous. And I read it in one of the Reiki books that I trained from, that's actually relatively common.
Yeah.
So if an individual is not ready to be open to this universal energy, they're not necessarily a good candidate to be to open up to step into that healing modality. But in a more direct answer to your question, I say that those that want to heal others and help heal others, or help in any capacity, um, are typically ready. It's not a normal thing for somebody to not be able to handle that energy. It does happen occasionally, and usually it's somebody that's relatively closed off. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, I know people who have gone and done like Reiki 1, for instance,
Mhm.
and gone through, they actually call it in some books, right? When you read about it, they call it a 21-day healing crisis.
Crisis, yes. I
So
love
like,
that. It's
I,
such a misnomer. It's like,
yeah,
hey, just kidding, guys.
yeah. So when you were saying, like, I explained that to everybody, like, as you know, because, we did it together, like, I explained that a lot too. I try not to scare people, right? But like, you never know the amount of like texts or phone calls, and there people would be like, this is happening. Is this normal? And pretty much anything could happen, because it's another layer of your healing.
Right.
And what it does is it's speeding up the healing process for you. Like, you're
Right.
going through a lot of healing in a short amount of time. So I agree with you. I feel like, to be honest, everybody can benefit from Reiki, right?
Absolutely.
Everyone can benefit from just tapping in before you even dive into Reiki, just tapping into your own energy and the energy around you, and just sit with it, whether it's through meditation or walking around or whatever it is. Connect with that energy, everybody.
I think to add to that, I think everybody 100% can tap in. I think some people are less open than others. And if
Agreed.
you have to be, I think you really have to be open to stepping into it in order for the um, balance to be there. I'm going to use balance. I think that's a good word. I think that there are individuals who want to, but aren't quite there. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Totally agree with you. There's two pieces. There's being open to the energy, right? And there's the looking to like improve your life, like you were saying before. Basically looking to go to like a higher consciousness, looking to make your life better and those around you life better, right? Um, and what I always say is Reiki comes from the energy of it. Hey Yesley, how are you? The energy of it comes from, it's all love, balance,
Right.
empowerment. It's all really like positive energy coming in. However, if you are not ready for it, it can come across to you as a negative thing, whether it's in a one-on-one session or you're becoming attuned.
Right.
If you're not ready, if you're not truly open to it, and you're not ready to go to that next level of consciousness for yourself, um it's not necessarily where it's negative, but you're going through a healing, and to heal, stuff comes up. So some of the stuff that you may not be ready to heal yet, even though your body's telling you and the
Yes.
energy's coming in telling you, okay, it's time to heal this, you may not be ready to do that. So then you're like, I don't like this,
Well,
right?
and I think you also step into experiencing the world a little bit differently too. So, one of the, I think it was Reiki 2, um, my Reiki 2 certification, that when I walked away from it, I remember I sent you a message shortly after, and I was like, everything feels brighter. And excuse me. And the lights, like I was looking at like the road signs that I was driving, and I was just like, wow, they're really green. And it's like things vibrate at a different frequency. And one of the experiences, as you said, I am a psychic medium. So stepping into looking at things a little bit differently, it was fascinating to me to see the differences in each in each certification. So Reiki 2, things were just vibrant, and I was just watching things and I was like, whoa. And noise was really loud. And so I had to like put myself in a calmer space. Reiki 3, I stopped eating meat for months. And, I found that I had to step into rebalancing in that way. And then, when I stepped into the Reiki master teacher, it was all kind of like a cumulative balance. And I was like, okay, cool. I think it's different. It is different for everybody. And so one of the shifts that I have made is I look at things very vibrationally now. So I can do a Reiki session, but a Reiki session is a different vibration than a psychic medium session, for example. So I can't do them necessarily back to back on the same person because they're different. They're different levels of energy. They're different energies that I'm stepping into. But to be able to look at the energy and just see the difference, to me, is fascinating. It's fascinating.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is like all of your senses get heightened. I mean, that very similar experience with the senses for me.
Yeah.
All the lights and like you said, everyone's experience is completely different because everyone's on a different healing journey. Like there are different things that have to heal for someone, right, than someone else. And your energy is different from a moment to moment basis as well. So one Reiki session with the same practitioner and then a Reiki session the week later could be a completely
So
different
different.
experience,
So
right?
different. Yeah.
Yeah. And I say this very often is like Reiki is, if you compare it to like a diet, right? One piece of broccoli is not going to make you healthy, right?
I saw a
So like,
meme yesterday of, I did a sit up. Do I have abs now? It's like, no.
right? I know, right? It's like my body still hurts from like 2 days ago. I did a new workout and I'm like, okay, can I be done? Can this be great? No, all
That's
right.
it, right? I'm set.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. Like, we're still human. We're in the human world. So one Reiki session or one self Reiki or one connection, right, is not going to heal you. It
Right.
is the continuous, striving for healing, for going to that next higher consciousness for you, bringing in the multidimensional other things. Like it is a piece, it is a tool in the toolbox to continue the healing, but we're still human. Stuff still happens. So something may happen today that I'm like, ugh, and I'm like, okay, Stacy, or if I'm not doing my own tools, I'm like, Stacy, I need your help, right?
And that's, I think the biggest takeaway from that is healers need healers too, because there have been multiple times that I've reached out to you going, hey Jill, let's, like, I need a session. I need to step into it because sometimes we all need those hands on. And it's important. It's Reiki is practice. It's not perfection. And that's one of the, when I was driving home from the grocery store to meet with you, I was just kind of thinking, what does Reiki mean to me? And my biggest takeaway is Reiki means being better. It's just being better. It's not being perfect. Because, if I kill that ant today, for example, perhaps it's an accident because I just moved wrong or whatever. But perhaps tomorrow I'll be more careful and I can actually take the ant outside and save it. It's not about living your life in perfect harmony all of the time. It's about saying, okay, I'm striving to do better in each and every way. It's in the time that we're living in right now. I think everyone could benefit from a little Reiki energy and a little extra energy and Reiki love, because it just, things have just felt awful. That's a great way to put it. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, yes, they just said that's a great way to put it. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And that's probably a really great, I mean, you answered most of the questions that I was going to ask you just by us talking, which is kind of how I assumed it would go, right? Like I just had like a few ideas. I guess one of my big things would be just anything. So one last thing I want to talk about is just the community of people that I have met and that I have connected with has been another part of the life-changing piece of it, I think, for me. Do you have any thoughts there as far as just it being part of your life? And has there been anything else that Reiki has brought in that maybe you didn't even have any idea that it would bring to you?
I will say one of the biggest shifts with when I started practicing Reiki is just this ability to step into looking at individual things as more of a group. Like, so I truly believe that we're all one. I truly, like, I stepped into this realization because I do see things so energetically that we're all, essentially we're all in this together, but we're all so interconnected that, that ant again that you may accidentally kill might have an effect on your life in 2 years that you don't even realize. And I know that it sounds so incredibly silly, but I think for me, one of the biggest takeaways and practices is just stepping into this realization that we're all connected. And so if you're in pain, I feel your pain. And I'll share, actually, if you don't mind, I'll share a small
Oh, yeah.
story about one of the healings that I did on my dog, actually, who is the love of my life. She's not here right now. She's at daycare. But she injured one of her rear legs and she could barely put weight on it. And I was feeling it was hurting my heart to watch her try to walk around. And I finally was like, okay, tomorrow you're going to the vet. If you can't walk in the morning, like, we've got to take you, you've got to be seen, because you can't put your non-weight bearing on this poor rear leg. And I don't know what you did. You could have broken something. And so I was laying in bed and all of a sudden it clicked, like, I'm going to do Reiki. I'm going to really step into it and give her all of the Reiki healing that I can. And I remember I put my hands around her leg, and it was almost like I could feel it in my entire body. All of a sudden, it was like my hands were just loosely around her leg, and I felt this pop, and it reverberated throughout my entire body. She yelped. She jumped off the bed, and she was fully weight bearing and has not limped on that leg since. And like, what was fascinating to me is, again, with whatever abilities that I have, I could almost feel that it was a slight fracture or a break in her leg that was fully healed, and she has not limped on that leg since. And I fully step into the belief that Reiki is 100% the healing modality that helps with that. Yay.
Leslie's got goosebumps over that one, girl. I was getting
Yeah.
those goosebumps
Yeah.
too.
It was probably the most profound experience that I had. And it was the one time that I stepped in and I could feel it throughout my entire body, and I could feel the healing take place. And from there, walking forward, I firmly believe that we are so all connected. But when we step into that belief system, we start treating people a little bit differently. We start being a little bit nicer. We start, realizing that the person who's screaming, perhaps they're really in pain. It's just, it allows us to be more understanding and more loving.
I'm getting teary-eyed when you said that, because that is it. You hit the nail on the head. For me as well, like, the connectedness, the living with your community, the healing. I mean, that's still one of the best stories. That when you shared that with me, when it happened, I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Mind blowing. It was
amazing, right? Amazing.
Yeah.
And I've had people who have done distance healing to a family member who just had surgery, who was vomiting, and then she does the Reiki again from a distance, right? And then he stops vomiting, he's better. Like, I've had people where I've done the distance healing and then all of a sudden they're texting. They didn't even know I was sending it to them. I just knew they were having a tough time, and then they text me like, I was thinking of you. Like, so it just shows like that connectedness that they don't even know. They know at a soul level. So I did still gain permission, just so you know. But
Reiki, when you step into Reiki, you can send Reiki to anybody, because it's essentially the higher self that accepts it or does not accept it. An example of that too, I was doing Reiki on somebody who was very, very, very sick and has a terminal illness. And their guides actually stopped me from sending healing to them. Like, they were like, nope, this is their path. This is the path that they are walking. You can send comfort. You can send comfort, and you can release the pain, but you can't heal. And I had never been stopped in that sense, because I had permission from the person, but their guides were like, nope, And so when we step into talking about permission, I always tell people, send Reiki, send love, send all of that good juju to whoever you want to, because at the end of the day, their guides are going to let it in or they're not.
I say the same thing. I said, because because again, it's coming from the love space,
Right.
from the balance space, from empowering space, right? So it's never going to do any harm.
Right.
If you're sending it in that way, right? Where, I don't know. So anyway, I could talk about this with you obviously all day long, but I've already taken up like more than a half an hour of your time. So what I would love is I did share the link to Stacy, to connect with Stacy with Insight Fitness. Stacy, as she already said, is a psychic medium, but I think one of the coolest things too that she does, and I don't know if you want to explain it, is connects that like intuitive psychic medium, Reiki, all of the things with fitness.
Yep. So I'm a certified personal trainer, amongst other things. I've got quite a background to me. Yeah. I'm a certified personal trainer, and what I did is I opened my business because I understand that there is this direct connection between physical fitness and spiritual fitness. So I will step in and do an intuitive assessment on a person physically. If I can be physically present with them, it's awesome. If I can't, it's not a big deal. Where I look at the blocks in their health and walk through like a regimen that they can go through with exercise that would be beneficial to their body. Which it's a lot of fun to do. I probably get just as much out of those sessions as the person does, because I always am learning new things. And I do what through Insight Fitness, I offer clearing of spaces with attachments and stuff like that too, and Reiki and medium and psychic medium intuitive readings. Yeah. Because I like my mediumship skills are there and they come through often, but I can't depend on them. But I'm very much so psychic. That's the area that I lean into the most.
Yeah, and you obviously have helped me to connect with like my guides and things, which has been amazing. And you've obviously been a go-to person for me from a Reiki standpoint as well. And I just love the fact that you found me after us, after already doing Reiki 1. And I think this is one of the big things is for people to know is that you can have Reiki 1 and you could have done it 20 years ago. I've done Reiki 2 with someone who had Reiki 1 for 20 years, wasn't practicing, right? Started to try to practice a little bit more and then wanted to keep going. So it can be done. You don't have to be attuned Reiki 1 again. We move on, we go through Reiki 2, but the biggest things are if you have these tools, use them.
Yes.
And let's connect and talk about whether it's like a one-on-one thing or you are thinking you want to start or continue your Reiki journey. It can be, if you are open to it and allow it, it can be completely life-changing, and you can help all sorts of other people just like Stacy is doing. Well, not just like, in your own way.
Yeah, you'll make it your own.
Also in your own way.
Yeah, there's Reiki is beautiful because even though there are processes that you step into and you go through, each person does it so individually, and it's a beautiful thing. The way I do a session is completely different than the way Jill does a session, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And every session and every attunement, every certification class is all very unique and personalized as well. So obviously if you're interested, let me know, let Stacy know. So Stacy has done like the fitness assessment with me, and she's done all sorts of readings with me, and they've all been amazing. So I highly recommend. So thank you, Stacy, for jumping on and sharing with me your experience with Reiki and like what it's done for you and how you've incorporated into your life. I really, really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And I hope you have an amazing day.
You too.
Take care, everybody.